Welcome to the City Council meeting, June 10th. It's 6 p.m. I'll now call this meeting to order. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll start with roll call. Councilman Koch. Councilman Loy.
Here.
Councilman Henderson.
Here.
Councilman Lavaca.
Present.
Councilman Cox.
Present.
Councilman DeYoung.
Present.
Councilwoman Peterson.
Present.
Perfect. I'd be looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Lavaca, seconded by Councilman Henderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, consent agenda, items 1 through 3. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a correction to one of the minutes.
Sorry to interrupt, but if you can please speak into the mic.
Sorry. Yeah, I'd like to make a correction to one of the minutes, and this would have been May 27th. I go down to it. It said I attended the North Star Symposium. That's how it starts. And it mentions Chris Collier. And Chris Collier is not with the Skagit County Housing Authority. He's with the Snohomish County Housing Authority, and he was talking about Skagit County numbers. So the 8,000 households in Skagit County that did not qualify for housing assistance were all Skagit County households. Just a small change. Thank you, that's it.
Okay. With those changes to those minutes, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Henderson, seconded by Councilman Lavaca. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, since we do not have a special guest or presentation today, we'll move right into the city administrator report. Charlie?
Yes, Mayor Kesty, council, no report this evening.
Okay. Then we will move on to council member report. Councilman Koch?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to say thanks to the many volunteers and city staff who helped with blasts from the past, including braving torrential rainfall. I also appreciated meeting with the Port of Skagit commissioners, Skagit County commissioners, a representative of the Upper Skagit tribe, Mayor Kesty, and other council members at the Innovation Center at the Swift Center. I also was extremely, I'm on the committee trying to help restore the hub building, and the work they're doing is fantastic. So I just wanted to a shout out to those efforts, because it's a beautiful building, and when you have a chance to go in and take a look, I encourage you to do so. Thank you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Councilman Loy?
Yeah, we had our next to last meeting on the upcoming skateboard challenge, except for they changed the name. They call it Log Jam now. And everything's rolling along pretty good. Carl made a really cool looking poster for us. And it sounds like we're getting more and more people every year. So cross your fingers and we'll just keep getting a little bit bigger every year.
Sounds good. Councilman Henderson?
Thank you, Mayor. I also went downtown this weekend for Blast from the Past. It was a great time. It was raining in true Washington fashion, so but it did clear up on Sunday for the car show, so that was a lot of fun. Also, I think we had everybody here at that meeting that Councilman Koch was speaking about with the commissioners and the Port of Skagit. A lot of interesting information. beautiful building that they have up there that they've renovated for business opportunities and stuff like that. And it was really cool to kind of see what the long-term plan for not only the recreation area up there, but for the actual old hospital site and some of the businesses and revenue that they're trying to bring into the county and specifically Sedro-Woolley. So it was a lot of great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lavaca?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I wish I could have stayed for the whole thing, but it's one of our best attributes and gems, even though it's not part of the city limits. It's right up there, so I really enjoyed that Innovation Center and the fact that they were able to communicate that well with us. Blast from the Past was a lot of fun. I'd like to thank all those people that were involved with that, and second what the other council members have said with that. I did hear a couple of comments during the Blast from the Past. There seems to be like a stir within the crowd, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, about a name change or the council proposing a name change or anything like that. It's hard to communicate that was never the case, that nobody's changing any names, that it was rolled over from previous agendas, is the discussion to talking about the discussion, and that was about it. So, rumor mill kind of gets started by a few and escalate. So I think we'll clarify that as well going up. And then we have a lot of events that take place in this community that are steered by just community-led groups, which is great, like Blast from the Past, Logger Rodeo, which does an amazing job as a community-led group, and they're fully formulated, and they handle everything. They come to the city from time to time to make requests for funds or, permits, things like that, support with Public Works, but they do an excellent job as a community organized event, as well as other ones that we have throughout our community that spearhead either, parks or various other organizations. So it's great to have those guys. Thank you.
On my side, not a lot to add other than I really enjoyed going up to the Swift Center. So for me, that was great to see it from that perspective. I haven't been able to do that before, so I enjoyed that. Also, Blast from the Past, I was there in person, living it. So as a business owner and as a person that loves cars and just walking around and visiting with people, the weather was crazy, but it turned out and people were diehards. So I think it was a good event. Definitely the cars were packed. So it was nice to see, you guys heard me talk about businesses staying open. It was nice to see that Hal's was open on Sunday for this event, which was great. And then talk to, I didn't personally, but I heard from Oliver and Hammer, and they kind of say, hey, maybe we should be open for this. So it's nice just to hear some of that. And I know what you guys do. I respect it because I got to hear a lot of people as I was walking. So they stopped me on the same things that you were speaking about there, Nick. So it's nice that we'll dig into some clarification, but it was a great weekend and it's nice getting to see everyone.
Perfect. Councilman DeYoung?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a brief report. Very excited to see Highway 20 reopening on the 19th of June for our gateway to the North Cascades. And over the last couple of weeks, I attended the Chamber Luncheon, City Works Day, the joint meeting between the city, Skagit County, and the port at the Swift Center, and I spent some multiple time at the Blast from the Past. At the Swift, we also toured the Hub building, as was mentioned before, and it was very useful to see that in person. As we know, the port owns and operates the Swift Center, and the city's role is land use, planning, and permitting, because the property is what we do. And Skagit County is also an important partner. And I also wanted to recognize the Upper Skagit Tribe. The city's own Swift Center goals say that we need to acknowledge and respect the tribe's interest in the property, and that matters for our cultural, environmental stewardship, and being a good neighboring government. City Works Day was a good reminder of how much basic work goes on into keeping the city going, and it's always great to see the kids inside very, very large pieces of equipment. So thank you to the staff and who explained the equipment, services, and the day-to-day work. Also wanted to thank the Chamber, the downtown businesses, local and visiting vendors, musicians, volunteers, and city staff, public safety, and the American Legion Post 43 for the car show during Blast from the Past. And Alan, how did your T-Bird do? Because
I didn't win any prizes. They gave out 75. And apparently they needed 76.
So events like that bring, especially free events like that, bring people downtown and support our local businesses. And so what I saw was that people enjoy these events. They also notice the practical stuff about the abundant parking. They also notice the good signage for street closures, where the restrooms are, how to deal with the trash, and how easy it is to walk around. And I feel that those details really matter. Looking ahead, I'm looking forward to participate fully at the next week's Skagit Transit Board meeting in Burlington. And of course, Transit matters to workers, seniors, students, medical appointments, and daily mobility. I'm also watching the road and project impacts, continued support for downtown activity, and the senior center operations item before us tonight. And of special note, I just want to say thank you to the residents who keep sending specific constructive feedback. It really helps. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Peterson?
I think we all really enjoyed, well, so on a week ago, last Monday, we met with the county, the port, the city, and a representative of Upper Skagit. And it was a great meeting, and we also went on this tour of the Hub building, and I know Mayor Kesty and Councilman Koch have been working really hard, and I wanted to thank both of you for your hard work on that. That's a collaborative project, and it's really important to our city, and you've done a lot of really great work on that. It looks really beautiful. I also walked down to Blast from the Past. I missed the rain somehow, but wanted to thank all of our partners for making that happen, because it's a really great event, a fun way to start the summer. Last week I met with the planning department. We're going to be doing some code updates following our comprehensive plan update, and I wanted to kind of get an idea of what zoning looks like kind of on the ground in Ward 3. So we took a tour of the different zoning areas, and I got an opportunity to kind of dig into what's allowed, ask questions of our very knowledgeable staff, what's allowed in each zone and what restrictions are in place, why they're in place, whether they're still relevant, that sort of thing. So that's a really cool opportunity. Thanks, Tom, for making your staff available for that. And tomorrow, Thursday, I'm planning to attend the Swamp fundraiser concert at the YMCA Rec Center. Swamp stands for Sedro-Woolley Arts and Music Performance. I encourage everyone to attend. I don't agree with the termination of the Arts Commission, but I do believe we can all kind of come together, like Nick was talking about. These community organizations are still alive and strong in Sedro-Woolley, and we can all come together to support the arts and this great project that's serving our youth here in town too.
Perfect. Well, I think you guys all took everything that I wanted to say. So thank you for that. I think we're just, it just shows that we're really blessed to live in this community, and everyone goes above and beyond for one another. So now we will go on to public comments. Before we begin public comment, I'd like to review the procedures. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Please state your name, where you reside, and your affiliation with the city. Comments should be directed to the council and the chair to maintain decorum. Applause, outbursts, and other audience demonstrations are not permitted. Please note that the council will not respond during public comment, but will listen to, thank you, and consider all comments presented. And tonight, we have Brent Schiefelbein.
Well, council, elected officials, thank you for giving me this chance to talk to you. I probably will forget a few things that I want to say since I didn't write it down. But to start off, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for being in elected office. I've been there before. There is very little fun in it because no matter what decision you make, somebody always sees it as being wrong. So I just thank you that you guys are coming from it, from the fact that you all care about Sedro-Woolley. For the most part, what you do is a very thankless job. Nobody sees behind the scenes. Nobody sees the full truth. And you guys have to make decisions based upon that. So thank you for that. And I want to say something that kept me through my service was doing the right thing is always the right thing, even if it's not fun. And you know you're gonna take angst online, you're gonna take hate online, and it's very hard to do, but you gotta let it roll off your back and continue working for what is best for this city and this community. With that being said, the other portion of what I wanted to say tonight was I'm here to represent a plethora of families that are involved in youth baseball. I am a coach along with being a parent of one of those athletes, and I have been involved for years at this point, and I want to ask the council to do whatever it is that is within your control to get the movement of our baseball fields from Riverfront up to the Northern State Rec area. It doesn't make sense to me why the county would no longer want to do that plan, since it's been part of their plan for decades. And now that hopefully they have a willing partner to do that, it would make sense that they move forward to do it. But as a coach, I know we, the Woolly Mammoths, have to practice in Burlington. And no offense, but I'm a Woolly boy. I want to practice in my hometown of Sedro-Woolley. So if we have the opportunity to put 4 fields, 6 fields, 8 fields up at the rec center and make it a gym, much like Bender Fields is up in Linden, where we could get tournaments going or something like that, or let alone just have a place to practice. I am in full favor of that and would ask that you guys would do whatever it is, talk to whoever you need to talk to in order to get that to happen. Like I said in my letter, I'm going to be brief because I've forgotten most of what I wanted to say, but I am in favor of children being our future, sports and recreation being a way in which they learn and grow, and I hope that we can all come together and choose them and not the birds. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, Andrew Shamp.
First, I'd like to congratulate James. I think it was an excellent choice, and he'll do a great job. And I hope he chooses to extend his sentence in 2027. But I'd like to talk about 4th of July with a quote from John Adams. Independence Day will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. I am apt to believe it'll be celebrated by succeeding generations as a great anniversary festival. It ought to be commemorated as the day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. It ought to be solemnized with pomp, parade, shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from the end of the continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore. Illuminations wasn't referring to the next Despicable Me movie or Minions. It's fireworks. I think we can all admit that everybody does it anyways. Why not let it happen here? It's too late to get any income from it from taxes, but why not for the 250th? Let them happen. Some of my fondest memories as a child are the 4th of July season, going to the logger rodeo, carvings and everything, and the chaos at the cul-de-sac, where the next day you can go back and find everything that got forgotten in the dark. But yeah, I think I know the fire department probably doesn't want it to happen, but it's safer to happen in the city than a stone's throw outside of city limits where there's hay fields that are all dried up. We got asphalt, watered lawns. Why not one year, just let it happen? We might not make it to 500 years, so that's it. America is a unique thing, and founding fathers thought fireworks would be the proper way to express its uniqueness. So that's all.
All right, thank you. Eric Johnson.
I stumble, my eyes aren't quite what they used to be. Good evening, council and mayor. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm sure it's not a mystery to you guys who I am, but I am a resident of Sedro-Woolley and the proud dad of the son of a boy who loves to play baseball. It is my firm belief that Sedro-Woolley is presented with an amazing opportunity with the prospect of building a new ball field up at the Northern State Complex. When we first joined a traveling baseball team this season, I knew that select baseball and softball was a thing. I didn't realize just how much of a thing it was until we arrived at our first tournament. We pulled up to Bender Fields in Linden to a sea of cars and a massive crowd of people who had descended upon those fields for a weekend of fun, baseball, and competition. With sometimes 2, 3, or 4 hours between games, tournaments provide captured patrons of restaurants, stores, and sometimes hotels. More baseball and softball will bring more money that is directly injected into our town's economy. Furthermore, the ball fields provide opportunity for our kids. Sports keep kids engaged, keep kids out of trouble, focuses their attention and energy, and provides an avenue for future success. Whether or not they ever obtain a scholarship or go pro, sports teaches invaluable lessons about work ethic, commitment, and teamwork. Our kids can only benefit from having access to these fields. At the school district, we are acutely aware of these facts, which is why we have endorsed this project and have, or soon will, submit a letter of support to this effect. Additionally, building the fields will demonstrate to our kids that this community is committed to them. Last year, my family had to travel to Clear Lake to practice on what I would call a ball field needing some serious TLC. This year, our team must travel to Burlington to practice because fields are not available for our kids to play on. That means Woolley boys and girls must go elsewhere to play the game they love. That means parents, your constituents, must spend extra time away from their own town as well. That means when Woolley hosts a game, other teams never step a foot in Woolley. Woolley baseball and softball deserves to be played in Woolley on fields in Woolley, and we can be proud and on fields that we can be proud of and that other teams will want to play on. Let's put our kids first and special interests second. Please, I would ask you to lend your strong voice and unwavering support for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad Worley.
I'm Brad Worley. I've lived here over 25 years. I want to thank you all for all the hard work that you guys do and the tough decisions that you have to make, whether you like to do it or not. I am here to talk about the soccer fields moving to Riverfront, as well as in support for the baseball fields moving to Northern State. It makes sense because if you've ever gone to a soccer game in October or November at Winnie, for one, it's raining, for one, it's cold, and the fields are destroyed. It makes sense to move the soccer fields to Riverfront and move the baseball fields up there. As our community grows, I mean, as of right now, being on the soccer board as a member, we have 540 kids that are signed up right now. And last year, it was a little less than that. But our community is growing. We need more soccer fields. Riverfront's a perfect place for it. We can put 8 fields or, whatever you guys decide. But I don't see our community not getting bigger, which is great. More participants, sports are important. As a coach, I've coached, many of sports, baseball, soccer, softball, basketball, and the kids have fun. And why would we hinder this by continuing to play at Winnie? I mean, I know we'll have to do it this year, which is fine, but when I have to bring a space heater for my wife to sit at a soccer game at Winnie, I understand the weather issue, but it's the grass that is not really grass anymore. It's more of a mud slick at Winnie. So being on the board, I talked to all of our members at our meeting last night, and we are in full support for this. I mean, it was good to hear back from you today, Nora, which is great. But the one thing I gotta point out is if this was in Anacortes and this same situation was going on, why are you undecided? This should be a no-brainer. I mean, it's a good thing to move things up there. I mean, it's being unused. Why not utilize it? I know there's a wildlife issue, but if you really look at that section of the drawings that you guys have drawn up, it's not a huge impact for wildlife. So I just wanted to come today, speak, and hope you guys make the right decision on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else who just didn't sign up, but they'd still like to speak? Okay, hearing none here. Woody, do you have anyone online who may want to speak?
Any of the guests remotely, if you would raise your hand if you would like to participate in public comment, I will unmute your mic. We are seeing none.
Okay, well then it's 6:26 and we'll close public comment. And we will move right into unfinished business. Charlie?
Thank you, Mayor Kesty. What we have here is the next iteration of the city's strategic plan, also known as the City Council goals. And this particular iteration, we had a number of strategies the council added in our last discussion, and we needed to add some action items to those strategies. So we've gone through and done that. There was one omission that I'm going to mention before I forget to mention it, and that is before press time, we didn't quite make it in with a wastewater treatment plant, either goal or strategy. And since we kind of set the goals by council, we're going to try to slip that in as a strategy under goal 4 and make it strategy 11. But there was a request by, I believe it was Councilmember Cock at the last meeting to have a piece of this dedicated to the wastewater plant since it's such a big project for the city. So we will definitely get that into the next iteration. But with that said, we do need to get this resolved and get this plan adopted soon, because we need to start planning it into the city's budget that we're developing this summer into the early fall for 2027, 2028. This is a long-standing process. We started this back in December of 2025 with a request to the council members to submit goals to staff, and then we took those goals and had a planning session here where the council prioritized and rearranged those goals, and we had strategies and action items submitted with those as well. And then we've, as staff, have added some strategies and action items as well. And we've had some council changes and some new suggestions as well. So that brings us to now, but this has been a relatively long process going over now about 7 months. So I wanted to address the gateway to the North Cascades versus base camp to the North Cascades discussion that broke out online quite a bit and a little bit at the meeting last time. I made a suggestion. It was based off of the council's economic development action plan. We have a line item in there that addressed kind of the concept of base camp to the North Cascades. And so I made a suggestion that maybe we start to look at that from a branding perspective under Councilmember DeYoung's added strategy 4 under goal number 1. There was a lot of conversation online kind of portraying this as a monumental decision between how to brand the city or not. What that was a suggestion to see if we could build some action items to possibly have a discussion at this meeting about whether or not to include it in the strategic plan in the future, which would have then led to future discussions that may or may not have resulted in any kind of changes to how the city brands itself that would have happened in 2027 and 2028. But given all the concerns and people upset about even the notion of that discussion, I just pulled it out. So, and I let Councilmember DeYoung know since it was a friendly amendment to his item. And so that's where we are. So that's not in here tonight, but we do want to look at what is in here. We've added some action items to the gateway to the North Cascades suggestion by Councilmember DeYoung. And there's a lot of good material, and talking with Tom Glover, our Community Development Director, in the comprehensive plan, in the economic element, that really ties into what was in, because it was built off the Economic Development Action Plan. In part, it ties into what was in there, as well as additional ideas and ideas the city's been carrying forward for a long time on how to really bolster the Gateway to the North Cascades concept and slogan. So that's all in there. I wanted to just address that up front. And then, council, I'd like to walk through with you what we have changed. This document is a challenge. I will say the formatting is a mess at this point, and I look forward to accepting a whole bunch of edits and changing the formatting. But if you've ever worked in track changes, it's dangerous to try to reformat when something's been added in track changes, because for whatever reason, Word does not like that. So my apologies for how this looks at the moment, but page 1, there were no changes. Yes.
Can I make a comment on the base camp?
Yes.
So I was very surprised to see the city social media post. I realized there was a lot of misinformation on the base camp versus Gateway, and I'm not a fan of base camp. That's a term pretty specific to mountain climbers. You know, there's 2 base camps at Mount Everest, and it came out, well, as a former journalist and a communications professional, I dealt with hundreds of misinformation on social media and elsewhere. Putting all this stuff about the plan 2 years ago and mentioning me and Joe Burns and the mayor, what was the point of that? You know, what I would always do in those situations, you don't restate stuff that confuses people. I had people call me and say, are you for the base camp? I went, no. But that's the way they read this. Generally, what I would do is say something like, the city council has only briefly discussed and never approved changing the city slogan from Gateway to the North Cascade to base camp. That's it. Because if you give people any rope on social media, because I had several people say, you're for base camp after I read that. I'm not. So.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember LaVaca.
Really wanted to. I would agree with Councilman Koch on that, because of that meeting, I don't think anybody was ever for it on any of the council meetings. I don't think Councilmember Burns, when he was a council member, now commissioner, I don't think that Paul brought it up or Councilman Koch brought it up and said, hey, let's do this, and it wasn't an idea. I think what I saw was that there was a lot of misinformation online coming out, and it was actually being shared by previous elected officials as if it was something new, even though they were present at those very meetings and introduced it into the packets. So it made it very confusing on how it even came about when the very people that introduced it were sharing it as if it was something very new and that the council just made a decision to do it. And I think that's where that back history, I was a little bit influential about, contacting Charlie and requesting to set the record straight, because it was just absolutely incorrect what was being said. So I don't think anybody had any intentions of doing that I've ever heard from the council. It just got slipped in somehow and rolled through for discussion to discuss as we have various things to discuss. So, thank you.
Okay, moving forward.
Yep, so I'm on page 2, and I'm under 3.6. So we took out action item 3.6 under strategy number 3 and simply moved it down to under strategy number 4. So that's all that happened there, and that was because we needed some additional action items under strategy number 4. We're trying to balance it out, and it fit well with outdoor, we thought, with outdoor recreation gateway as well, since we're talking about leveraging youth recreation. We also added in or referenced goal E3 of the city's new comprehensive plan. So that's what I was talking about from the economic element. There are 17 policies under that. And one thing that we're struggling with a little bit is we don't want to necessarily recreate the comprehensive plan in the strategic plan. So we're just referencing it there, and then we will figure out how to enter this into Invisio and track it. But there are a bunch of robust policies around that. So that's what we added there. And if you want to discuss, maybe I'll just pause at each goal. Anything you'd like to discuss at goal number 1 that you'd want to change from what's stated there?
I can't see if any of you guys have your lights on, but okay, nope.
Okay, all right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Councilman Henderson?
Thank you. So knowing what our what we have coming in the future based on senior services and potentially expanding our footprint of our parks, which would make it a greater maintenance for the city and the crews and everything like that. I like the idea of a Parks and Rec manager to implement programs coming out in the future, but for the 27-28 budget, I don't know if that would fit within the 27 budget for what we're trying to do. I think that's further down the road. I know that we have in here, and I'm jumping around a little bit because this is really hard to follow, and it's not your fault. It's hard to follow because we've made so many changes, but we do have under Goal 3, ensure a smooth transition for senior center programming, including Meals on Wheels, congregate meals. That's being handled by SCOA right now, but also adding a senior center coordinator role to the city's payroll. Now, I don't know where everybody else is at on leaving the Parks and Rec coordinator in here as like a goal to aspire to. I'm just stating my intention of prioritizing the senior center before we expand another FTE into a Parks and Rec coordinator position for at least the 27 budget.
I would absolutely concur with that, if I may, Madam Mayor.
Okay. I see Councilwoman Peterson.
So I want to make sure I understand what we're doing here correctly. My understanding is that we're setting out, I think Alan just said aspirational goals. And we're not committing budget funds today, right? If we approve this, the budgeting process is going to happen in the fall, and we're going to go through and see what we can do, and we're going to be constrained fiscally based on the city's finances and whatever external funds we're able to bring in to cover some of the costs of various activities as well. Is that right?
That is correct. There are things in here that I am guessing we may not be able to fund, just depending upon a whole variety of factors that are out of our control right now. So these are intentions. Like, we would like to do these things if we're able to, and then we work with that. But the council can also, change your intentions, and this would be a good time to do that if that's your
One of the things for me is, I think, having creating goals that are attuned to the needs of the city will give us something to go off of when we're seeking funding for projects. I don't know if we'll be able to find funding for a Parks and Rec coordinator or a senior center coordinator, but having those kinds of things in the strategic plan does help the city. It does provide leverage for the city to secure funding for those projects. And so my preference is to make sure we're attuning the strategic plan to the needs of the city rather than our assumed fiscal constraints at this stage.
Councilman Henderson?
Right, okay, so, what we're doing right now is we're going through our goals and setting our goals as a strategic plan and a policy so the staff can move forward with the next 2-year budget. So that's kind of what we're trying to establish here. And so this is kind of where the finances and the goal setting tie in together a little bit, which is why we're looking at future forecasted needs and deciding kind of like what are our priorities, like as a council, what are our priorities for when we do the budget that we're going to be doing this November, and what do we think can wait? Because as I learned in the last budget, and no offense to the city staff, but they will spend every penny you give them if you let them. You know what I mean? So so right now, we're setting our goals as our policy for how they move forward in setting the budget. And that, to my understanding, is all we're doing right now. So that's why I'm going through and I'm looking at certain things, and I'm saying, is this something that's needed for 27, or is it not? And then moving forward on that, I mean, we could put a ton of things in here, but a lot of things wouldn't be realistic. So that's why I'm specifically targeting certain things that I'm saying for me is a priority for staff to find a way to fund, and then other things personally for me, I'm specifically targeting as things that maybe we need to look at punting to 28 and not 27.
Councilmember Lavaca?
Thank you very much. So yeah, I would agree with that we want to have attainable goals for the A and the SMART process of this. It's really important to make sure that we have that. Now, there's things like coordinate with the WDFW to improve facilities. That's a small coordinating task or a one-off task. FTEs, that's definitely something that's a bit larger, and it's not something that you can easily move around or check off with a little bit of effort. So I would be in favor of, like I said, just sticking to the attainable process of this. And then when we do the next strategic goals for the following budget, 2029, something like that, definitely I want to see that brought in. I want to see if we can fund those kind of positions or things like that. But we should set for ourselves right now something that follows the SMART techniques.
Councilman Cock?
I was just curious, are some of these duties that, would be under this part of that division of labor with Nathan that we talked about, or not?
Yeah, and Bill may want to jump in on this, but yeah, in dividing the duties up there in Public Works, one of the thoughts was that the Parks and Facilities Division someday could branch off into being a city's Parks and Recreation Department, if you will. So for the senior center discussion we'll have in a little bit, we're going to recommend a senior center coordinator position go into that division if we create it. So yes, I think this recreation coordinator position would very likely end up in that division, at least initially.
So that would be a future thought for it, not immediate, right?
It really comes down to when the city council feels the time is right, and we'll certainly, weigh in on that with our thoughts as well. But I think financially right now, it is new staff are going to be a tough lift.
Because we're probably taking on an FTE for the senior center, right? That's very likely, and that's much more than we've been spending there, right?
Yeah, that's an unanticipated addition if we decide to do that we're going to have to figure out how to finance.
Yeah, I think it should be a future thought, and I think as we grow, we should strongly consider it. But I think after that FTE, I don't know what we'll have left.
So I can say a little bit.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would say this is a future anticipated need at some date. I mean, this is, I think, in my mind, a position that's not doing necessarily parks planning and those types of things, which is certainly our forte right now, but really coordinating specific activities and stuff. For instance, like we had movies in the park at Olmsted Park, or, Easter egg hunts and that type of stuff, the things that give us. So there's a kind of a theory out there that we went through in the city of Blaine, where if you really want your city to be a destination, a place to go, you kind of need to have 80 to 100 events a year, right? And they can be little events, they can be big events, and all that sort of stuff. And part of that is getting into that kind of minutia, and some of it is coordinating things amongst little leagues and baseball fields and stuff. We sometimes have issues with that where we're overloading parking and things like that. So how do you have a person that can orchestrate all that? And then as we grow and get a little bit more sophisticated, pretty soon, you need somebody that specializes in that as opposed to the planning department and the maintenance department and those things. We do a lot for what we have right now, most certainly, but at some point in time, it's going to become a need. Is this something intended to do next year? Probably not, but it's a goal.
So moving forward with that, do you guys?
Madam Mayor. So have we talked about .5 yet, or because I've got some overall comments?
Yeah, I'd love to resolve 4.2, if we can do that. I think that's really the question on the table, and then absolutely we can jump anywhere you want.
Do I have a general consensus of which way you guys would like to go? Is there, Councilwoman Peterson?
What about consider hiring a Parks and Recreation manager or coordinator instead of saying, maybe that's the issue, is that it's too strong of language? I would hate to see us miss out on an opportunity that came up. I mean, and it does seem to be kind of the direction the city is needing to go in with the expanding services that we're providing with our expanded facilities.
Council?
I agree that, today's not the day we're making the budget decision, but I don't really see a reason to remove it from the strategic plan.
Okay. Councilman Lavaca?
There was just a report that the governor had put out, or his office had put out, about our budget and insolvency with certain programs, and definitely spending a lot more than they have. So they're not. I don't know if what you're anticipating on is like a grant money being provided for some program that we might miss out on. But I kind of think that we're probably not going to be. I mean, that would be a pretty rare circumstance, very unlikely to keep it in there just as a general note. And I definitely would like to see a facility manager for the Parks and Rec to facilitate like organizing the entire thing. I've always wanted to see that, but if we're just having it in there for just words, then I don't know if it would matter.
All right, so would you like to take a general consensus of a vote whether or not to have it in there or not?
Can we amend it?
Can I say
You would like to make a motion to amend? Is that what I'm hearing, Councilman?
What is wrong with just saying?
I'm actually still referring to Councilman
sorry,
Henderson. What would you like?
So if we could amend the wording, I'd be fine with it, because that is something that we're looking to in the future. But the word hire a Parks and Rec manager is a really strong statement when we're talking about a strategic plan that largely revolves around our next budget cycle. We can make goals all day long, but they have to be realistic. If we want this as a placeholder in the future, we could say, something along the lines of consider
Like
a future, because this is something we've had several discussions about, that this is something that we want, but now is not really the time to hammer on that goal.
That was my language I was going to suggest for future consideration, comma, hire a. And that puts it into future, and it's still there as a placeholder.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, do we feel all right with that? General consensus?
Yeah, it sounds like everybody's in line with what that was, but it has been on there for the last over 5 years. So we just keep kicking the bucket down the curb to do it in another 2 years or another 4 years or another 5 years. So is it attainable? Has it been something that we've achieved? Has it been something we pursued or even considered in any of our times with doing any of this? Or is it just language that's getting us hung up on long discussions within the meeting? So I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with it. We've had long discussions in the round table down there for the workshop that went nowhere multiple times regarding this very subject. So I'm down to keep it if we want, but
Just leave the little, the edit and then leave it as a placeholder.
Can
All
we
right.
amend it as suggested?
Yep, Charlie?
Yep, got it. Okay. I believe Councilmember DeYoung, did you have a particular area you wanted to discuss?
Well, I was holding off for 5, and then
For 5,
I have
okay.
general comments.
I'll just keep plowing along here then. So I think that everybody okay with 4, strategy 4 there, the rest of it. So we talked a lot about 4.2. 4.1 is a reference to the comprehensive plan. So if there are no concerns, I'll just keep moving. Goal number 2, Bill has added some clarifying language on the multimodal transportation network goal. That isn't likely to make it into Invisio, but we're recommending at least be included in the plan. I think it's just to better define what we're doing with multimodal.
Hey, Charlie, could you, for the benefit of everyone, explain what Invisio is? Somehow
Yes,
explain
I can do that. Yeah, thank you. I tend to refer to it a lot. So Invisio is our performance management software program, and it's very useful in the sense that it allows us to track a variety of projects in one place. So if Bill's tracking the Jones-John Liner project, he's actually using it as a project management software, and then he's able to tie different components of that project or overall progress on that project to a specific part of the strategic plan. And we're also going to be implementing the comprehensive plan in Invisio, so we're going to be able to track the Jones-John Liner project not only in the strategic plan, but also at the same time in the comprehensive plan. And what you get then are reports and a dashboard that's on our website that shows you percentage progress towards completion. Plus, you can drill all the way down to individual action items and see the staff reports. We will be doing a better job updating those. I will say we don't always get to those updates as timely as we'd like. So they take big jumps from time to time, but yeah, there's a lot more potential and things we could do with that program. But it's a program that we subscribe to, and we've invested a lot in it. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. So that was goal number 2. We didn't make any changes below that until we get down. There was just a formatting change, I think, under strategy 4.2 down below. So I'm not going to spend any time on that. We took out the safe routes and daily mobility strategy. And Bill, if I recall correctly, I think you inserted that somewhere else.
Yeah, so basically that's what that preamble is to the transportation multimodal stuff. So part of this is, there is some different lingo in this that relates to, just my world. So things like complete streets and multimodal. So the complete streets model, we are a complete street city, we have a complete streets ordinance, and part of that, what it is that helps address sidewalk gaps, ADA, bicycles, pedestrians, trying to incorporate all of that into our new projects and retrofitting old projects so that we make those links, lessen gaps and all that stuff, which is a theme throughout this multimodal network set of goals and policies. And basically, as I realized, people aren't necessarily translating the list I translate when I read complete streets. So that's the attempt of that preamble, to say this is what we're trying to do and accomplish, and then these are the strategies and activities that let us accomplish that.
Thank you, Bill. So going down to goal number 3, no changes in that.
Madam Mayor, if I may. On goal 3, it's because these are goals that we're looking to be attainable. It just says provide accountable leadership that is fair, accessible, and transparent, both in reality and perception. So that's our goal. That's something we haven't attained, but we were aiming for, or is that something that we have?
Yeah, that's a goal submitted by council, and then the strategies underneath that. Really, the way I look at this is the smart aspect of this is everything from the goal level through the strategies down to the action items.
Can we maybe say continue accountable leadership or something like that?
If that's the council's preference, we can
What
definitely
do
do
you
that.
guys think? I don't know if we have. I don't know if we have. This is something where we're not quite doing, or if people don't have the ability to find this. I think all the down below is great. This is all stuff, but just the heading of that is saying provide it, which means that it's right now not being provided. So we don't have accountable leadership, which I think we have, and that is fair. And I think our leadership teams are very fair to us, to the city, to the people. Accessible. You guys are accessible. I think you're transparent, and that we're transparent, and that both in reality and perception. So I think continue might be a better word for that, unless you guys are in objection.
I'm seeing head nods that they would agree with that.
Excellent, got it. All right, moving on down to the next page. Okay, at the bottom, we had a strategy on fiscal resilience, and I added some action items under that. The first one's related to, we need to update our purchasing policies, so I included that in there. I included our financial policies as well, reviewing those with council, and there's some new stuff we want to work on there. And then the city has an ER&R, equipment replacement program, and we can continue to strengthen that by adding additional equipment. I was just talking with Chief Wagner about that today. So I included that in there. And then analyzing maintenance costs, and I talked with Bill about this, and considering additional matrix to guide staffing levels. So for example, parks maintenance, there are actual like national metrics and leading practices for different types of parks acreage and what kind of staffing you ideally would have to maintain those areas. So starting to really get into that discussion with council and to bring you some analysis in those areas so we can revise our future goals.
Charlie, Councilman Cobb.
Yeah, when I saw the word resilience, and it's not entirely applicable, but do we have any formal process for risk management? I was on a risk management committee at the university, and it was very helpful in looking at the various threats, you know, because you have heat maps. What is bad? What is good? What are you doing right? Do we do anything like that?
I'd say we don't have a cohesive, like comprehensive approach to that, but we have a number of things that we do in that area. We have, for example, an employee safety committee that looks at employee-related issues. We have our insurance pool, and you know we do a review with them every year of claims and other things. So there are efforts in the departments as well, but nothing that's sort of citywide at this point that's totally risk management related.
Councilwoman Peterson.
I just wanted to say I really like what's been added here. I've been trying, as we go through these larger expenses, I've been kind of tracking through our procurement policy and everything, back to all the RCWs, and it's a maze of RCWs, and everything's, we're doing everything correctly, and it's all above board, but it would be really great if it was updated to just refer to the exact statutory requirement. So I really, really appreciate this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this come up.
Okay, moving on down. We had, under technology and governance, it came through in sort of a yellow font, which is very hard to read. But I'm gonna blow it up actually so I can see it better. So IT is gonna gather additional policies and work with a group of individuals to ensure they're meeting all the points listed above, which relate to cybersecurity, privacy, public records compliance, and other items. After which they will present to council for input before adopting and implementing new policies. Some of these may be different policies that they can combine some of these policies together for easier tracking. So it's kind of a comprehensive IT policy review that's being proposed to further enhance our policies as the action item under that. If there are no council questions or comments, I'll move down to strategy 7, which is the local voice and regional systems. I added these items in here as things that I think we can do to be more consistent and more, I think, present in those places. So one thing I've been working on with the transition of mayors is a full comprehensive list of where we serve on regional committees. That didn't really exist before. So we've got a good start on that, kind of who is where. But to continue to maintain that, I think will be helpful for future mayors and for council as well. And I want to get that up on the website in the near term here. And then second, just having the mayor make timely appointments. I don't think this has been an issue, but it is a part of regional representation to make sure that we have those seats filled so that we can continue to represent the community in the region. And the last one, developing an intergovernmental agenda, which is something that's been talked about, I think, with a number of individual council members over the last few months. And I've worked in cities that have a regional agenda, a state agenda, a federal agenda. That's a lot for a small city. So my suggestion is we just put them all together with subcategories and put our highlights in there. And then when we're talking with anybody at any one of those government levels, we're all on the same page from a City of Sedro-Woolley perspective. So those are 3 items I put in there. Any questions, comments, or additions or thoughts?
Councilman LaVaca.
Thank you. I don't know if it's appropriate maybe in here more towards our policy, but just in the appointments, mayoral appointments for positions, if we can have something that is something that states if they've, if the election is passed and they will no longer be the mayor, then they should bring those appointments to the council to get council input, or if they put in a resignation, bring that before the council for council input, still having the majority vote in where they're appointing it, but just throwing out something to say, getting a council understanding of what those positions are like. Would that be something for in here, or once that's done?
Yeah, I could probably provide some clarification in here under that 7.2. I think that would probably be the place for it to go. The council governance manual would be another place for that to go, and we'd want to talk with our city attorney on that as well, because there are definitely some, I'm learning as we go through this process, there are definitely some RCW powers given to the mayor that we want to make sure that we honor those as well as the council's role in all this.
Yeah, and it might be something, yeah, definitely, that'll work out great, thanks.
Councilwoman Peterson?
I wonder that, just based on what you're saying, Charlie, I wonder if it would be a good idea to include revising the council handbook in the strategic plan somewhere. Because that's something we've talked about a couple times. It's come up that we want to do that.
Absolutely, it's definitely on our to-do list, and I will take a look back through here so we don't try to wordsmith it as a group tonight to see if I can find a place for that. If I can't, we'll figure out a way.
Councilman Cox?
I missed it. I probably missed it, but is the new police station in here somewhere?
I think it is. I'd have to go back and look for it as well. I will double check.
Because
to make
that's
sure.
pretty important too.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, moving on down to goal number 4. Under goal 4, we had under the comprehensive plan, getting the comprehensive plan into Invisio under strategy 1, still in there. And then I had some updates from Tom Glover here to my right. So Tom, I don't know if you want to jump in on any of those, but removed adding deadlines to the various activities in the plan. That's just a part of putting it into Invisio, so that's probably redundant. And then working on annual work plans, that was included in there. You just made some edits to kind of clean it up. 1.4, monthly reports to Invisio. We've been talking with the Invisio staff, and for a comprehensive plan and tracking on it, monthly reports are a lot. And you're probably not going to see many updates. So their recommendation for other clients who use this for comprehensive planning is more like quarterly or semi-annual reports. So we would just have a different reporting cadence with this. That's the recommendation. And there's going to be a lot to track. So that's the other reason for it. The 1.5, providing an annual comprehensive plan update presentation to the city council. I think that was a request from council, and that one got deleted, so I want to check in on that. I think that's something council was requesting at some point, or at least a council member was requesting, but if nobody feels strongly about that, we'll just keep it out.
Councilwoman Peterson, your light's on?
Yeah, maybe I was the one who felt strongly about it.
Yeah.
When I saw this section, I was kind of disappointed to see all of the kind of interim updates on the comp plan removed, and just having that 5-year, which I think is the state's requirement, right? I think it'd be good to have some updates just for the council ahead of the 5-year requirement, just so that we can kind of make sure things remain on track. I don't know if it's like quarterly or annually or whatever, but something.
Yeah, I think out of Invisio, you would get a quarterly update for sure. That's something once we have it set up, you will get. And then Tom and I are over here talking about annual. It feels like it'd be the right approach, because we're likely to have an annual work plan, and then we can report to you on that work plan kind of at the end of the year.
Councilman LaBaca?
Thank you. I think it does take a little bit of time for some of this stuff to go into action. So they got the 20-year comp plan, the 10-year retrofit, the 5-year on certain cases to look at it. And so if you get too close to reviewing it every year, you don't give enough time for things to go through, but you also come in and you re-debate it and then change it or make those changes, and it could slow the process a little bit in part. So having those longer time periods, I think, might help to ensure things, you're watching it on Invisio, but you might be able to see it come through as it gets going. With the police station, I think it's later on in the Capitol facility, so it's not quite here. But I don't know that we want to put like police station specifically, because it is a pretty large expense. Maybe study it or something to find out what that cost would be and what Chief Dan would like to see in his ideal wish list police station. But it probably would be a levy and probably be years from now.
Councilman?
Yeah, I disagree. I think it should be in there. We can say consider. future, consider and study future funding for a new police station, but, I mean, we've all been over there. They need help.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Like outside of the, it's a matter of not necessarily if they need help, but like, is the funds, the loans there, they're about to do a wastewater treatment center, just things like that. I think it should be in there, but it's like that capital facilities, it could be looped right into there where it's also having that workshop discussion on, the wastewater treatment, the stormwater treatment, just different facilities we have, what upkeep we need to do, and then what new facilities we propose, and how we can work out possibly getting even a temporary solution that's lower cost, but it would probably be, I would estimate 28 to 32 million by the time we actually get into it, and that's not even accounting for inflation. So it would be a levy.
We don't have a site, so.
Yep.
Which we'll get to at some point.
Yeah, it's a little further down.
Yeah, a little further down. We'll stick with this one first.
I'll wait. I'll hold
Okay,
off on my.
thank you. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yep, so we've got in here as well, review the development code, just some updates from Tom to just kind of clarify the way this is stated, to foster more affordable housing in the city, and that's something that's on the docket. Complete proposed code amendments as well, that were started prior to the adoption of the comprehensive plan. So a lot of things have been on hold since I've been working on the comprehensive plan, and we needed to finish them off. And then the city's development regulations he crossed out because it's referenced up above in 2.1. On strategy 3, you have just a quick cleanup there of the words in 3.1, so nothing really material. And then going down to public safety and health, which we were just talking about, you will see the references there to purchasing land for a new police department and beginning the design process and developing a funding plan. Didn't make edits to that, but then there's also reference to police staffing. And also there's an addition there, enhancing efforts regarding law enforcement personnel retention and wellness.
Councilman Henderson?
Thank you. Under 4.4, is there a way we could get sent like a map of all the property that is city-owned property? So we can go through sorting all of that out before we consider purchasing property?
Yeah, we can produce a map to the degree that we know it all. Yes, of city properties. I don't know how easily we have that as kind of like a GIS layer or something, but we can look into that. Tom's got it.
Thank you.
So yes, we can produce that.
Councilwoman Peterson?
I think that's a really good idea, and I think it'll help not just for looking at citing the police department, but for a lot of the other projects that we have going on. I had no idea that we needed so many more ball fields. I was so shocked to hear that we have families going to Burlington and Clear Lake. I'm choking on this. I was just so shocked to hear that. And I think it'd be a really good idea to see kind of what properties are available and what we can do, not just for the police department, but for some of other city needs.
Absolutely. That would make a great study session topic if it can wait till September, October. Otherwise, we'll bring it sooner. But yeah, Tom's got it, so we'll at least get that circulating. Okay, moving on down.
I'm sorry. Councilman
I can't see
Henderson?
the lights or I'd stop.
It's okay. I remember, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was when I was still relatively new, so it was probably in my first year where this same topic had gotten brought up about a new police department, and one of the suggestions that I had was going into like precincting. I don't know if that's the proper term, but like do a like we have 2 fire stations, right? We have this one down here and the one up on the hill. If we could look into expanding room in some of the property that we already own, and that's kind of a manpower thing too, because who knows. I don't know exactly how many people we have on shift at all times. Dan does, but I don't. But if it's space that's an issue, or it's like office space that's an issue, or whatever the case may be, looking at the assets that we already own before we dive into a very costly building a brand new police station. And then once we do that, you know, and we build, you know, a future-proof police station, right, that will never need a new one. Well, what do we do with all of these offices, right? Like, is the fire department hire more people to backfill, right? It's just, I keep struggling with the building of the new police department when I'd rather hire officers instead of, but you have to have a place for them to go, right? So if we could bring that into a study session, right? Not just review land that we already publicly possess, but look at where else we could put people, right? Essentially. So that's kind of an idea I had, and I don't think it was very well received the first time I brought it up, but I don't know if I brought it up in the right way the first time. So, and I don't know if I'm bringing it up in the right way this time either, but
I have
it's
a
an idea that I had.
suggestion if council wants to go there on 4.4, rather than purchase land, maybe we say evaluate land for a new, and that way it covers every possibility.
I'm getting lots of thumbs up, and then Councilman Lavaca.
I like the idea of a workshop with our open lands, and then, you know, discussion of what Councilman Henderson is saying, as well as maybe some of our very large capital expenses we're looking at having to make or in process of making, where that could be alleviated from at least the current or the at-need budget, so that way we can look at utilizing those funds or spreading them out. Eventually, a nice new police station, I'm sure the police station would love it, the police force would love it, but where could we actually work within our means? So a full workshop to kind of look at that and see where things do work out. I think we have a couple of big ones that are coming up. So.
Councilwoman Peterson.
I'd like to see strong language in here about building a police department so that we're positioning ourselves well to recapture our fair share of state and federal funds to meet this community need. The need still exists, even if we just continue planning and discussing it. And, you know, putting it in our strategic plan doesn't mean that we'll necessarily have the money to fund it all ourselves, but I don't think there's any expectation that we're going to fund it all ourselves. We will need to rely on state and federal partners to make that happen. But, you know, the safety of our community is really important, and I think it deserves that strong language that shows where we want to move forward.
How does what we suggested not suggest that? Instead of purchase land, we're adding evaluate, and so I'm confused at where
Councilwoman Peterson.
that came from.
So purchasing land is like an action step to move towards building a police station, and doing an evaluation or a study is not really, I mean, it's a thought process essentially. We're not going to be securing grant money to do this evaluation, I don't think. I think we'll be better off just seeking funding to get the project done.
Councilman Lavaca.
Thank you. Could we say something like evaluate to resource or to purchase land for a new police station? Could something like that work? So it's not so where we're purchasing land, but we are still in the market for figuring out what we're going to do for a police station for the need of grant purposes.
Are you guys all in favor with that verbiage, that it's the best of both worlds? I'm seeing nods. Kevin, are you, okay, Henderson?
I think, obviously, grants will still be a challenge because they're probably going to be matching grants in some way or another. It's probably not going to be a huge response. We're tight on budget in the state anyways, but they have promised money to the police force. Since we have the least police state in the entire union, they keep saying that we're going to help with that. And then they do some counselors or something, but hopefully they do come to it. So when they do have that, you know, it could be something we do, but it might still cost us.
Councilwoman Peterson.
What about language that is general in a different way, like move forward with expanding facilities for public safety? Because that would also capture what Alan's talking about with potentially looking at utilizing multiple sites. And I'd be okay with, you know, just saying moving forward with instead of, I just don't want to, evaluating and planning is really a different step in the construction process than acquiring land. And it's not, to me, it isn't really addressing the need in the community.
I think we're getting hung up on some words here, so if someone would like to take a direction and state it so we could take a vote on what you guys would like to see so we can move forward, that'd be helpful.
I like the idea of just evaluate available land or purchased land for a new police station.
Okay, do I have a second with that thought?
Second that.
Okay, all in favor of that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Opposed.
Okay, so 2 to 5. Okay, so did you get that proper language?
I got it.
Okay, let's move forward.
Okay, moving on down, strategy 5, no changes. Strategy 6, no changes. Strategy 7, we do have an action item under recognizable growth, which is working with Skagit County and the city of Burlington to clearly establish a defined buffer between the cities of Sedro-Woolley and Burlington, either through the establishment of a green belt or open space area or some other mechanism. Tom, is this comp plan? It's the middle, okay. So it's straight out of the comp plan. And I'll just keep going. So on 8.1 is under the Central Business District first, which is building on previous actions, work with the community to develop a downtown activation plan to detail legislative, programmatic, and placemaking efforts to foster economic development, increase living wage job opportunities, and provide a more vibrant downtown hub for residents, workers, and visitors. Also on the comp plan. Thank you. All right, and then nothing under 9. 9 is not changed, and under 10, city edge and urban growth area discipline, we added coordinate with the county to establish and maintain an urban growth area or sufficient size to accommodate 20-year population and employment projections to include existing and future urban land uses. That's, I'm assuming, also comp plan. Okay, we all collaborated on this, so it's not always clear to me who made the edit, so that's why I keep asking. And then we also took out 12 because it was duplicative of strategy 3.7 above. So hopefully that was okay. And then we're going to propose to add 11, strategy 11 under this one, which would address the wastewater treatment plant from earlier tonight. And then we had a request to add, I think, one more project, which I wrote down on a previous piece of paper. So I won't forget that. Anything further from council on this one? So we'll bring back a clean version that's reformatted. I can't wait.
Councilman DeYoung?
Right. I wanted to say thank you, and more thank you. And I really support clean and clear council goals, and they should help staff understand what the council's direction is, and help residents understand what our priorities are, and then, as we talked about, how we measure those or metrics. So I appreciate the work that we all went through for the revisions. I think the language is clearer, it's more practical, and it's easier, especially for residents to understand. It pulls up to a strategic level, goal level, away from an action list. So I appreciate that. And I also appreciate that we're recognizing the gateway to the North Cascades as part of the Sedro-Woolley's long-standing identity. It opened in 1972. I can recall seeing a newspaper in 1969 article about Sedro-Woolley being the gateway from the project that was visualized in 1959. So I'm glad we're sticking with that. My concern was that the council goals should guide the city work, and I'm hearing that strongly. And it shouldn't read like a marketing campaign. It needs to read like our goals. And I appreciate being able to talk with the staff when they had questions about syncing up some of the terms and words, and realizing that some words had more implications than were intended. So I appreciate that education. I really support that daily mobility language, which, you know, in plain English is our sidewalks, our crossings, safe routes to schools, trail connections, transit access, bike access, where practical, and freight movement, and especially with our emergency response. This is how people move through our town every day, and so they have concerns, and we address those. And I totally support what we've talked about, and it gives clear direction, and it keeps us focused on the practical city work. And it's not always flashy, but that's what we do. So thank you for all the hard work, everyone that put into this, and I really want to thank the fellow council members and the mayor for putting forth their ideas and working collaboratively. We don't always get what we all want, but we work together as a team. So thank you for this process.
All right,
I'll settle on that item.
okay,
Yep, thank you.
perfect. We'll go into new business. Ordinance 2119-26, amending chapters 10.92 and 10.96.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council and staff. This proposed update was drafted in anticipation of both short-term and long-term changes in both state law on the subject as well as emerging technology. I want to give credit to Chief McElraith for seeing Senate Bill 6110 coming down the pipeline and listening to the input from the community on this. Senate Bill 6110 was just approved, and so didn't make it into the packet, but it does go into effect tomorrow regarding e-bikes. We really wanted this update to do two things. The first is to incorporate the parts of state law that are universally mandatory as they change. So a sort of future-proof code update, if you will. The second thing was to make sure to retain the greatest allowable amount of local discretion on the subject for our council and for law enforcement. And then also, it clears up any potential issues regarding due process when people are stopped. As we anticipate, there will be a sort of learning curve for the public and an education period regarding the new categorization and expanded prohibition in the central business district. And I'm happy to take any specific questions or pass it over to Chief if he has anything to add.
Do you have anything to add, Dan?
Yeah, I could add some things. I just know over the past year plus, we've had numerous complaints of electric vehicles, private council, public comments, calls for service, and those kind of things. And this is our opportunity to try to address this. One thing when these bikes started coming out, it was really confusing on how to enforce them. I think this helps us understand as a local police department how we can enforce them. We also have a little bit more restriction on it. It's nothing different than what we had prior with tow vehicles, the way back when we had motorized gas foot scooters, which were causing a nuisance of noise and speed and operating in hours of darkness, all those kinds of things. That was a big thing 10, 15 years ago. Obviously, we don't see that very much anymore. I see this in the same effect, just now you can't hear them. So I think that causes an issue as well. So just be mindful of that. I think having helmets required is an overall public safety concern. A lot of youth are using these, and most of them are under 16. And some, I see a lot of them that appear under 16 and riding the e-motorcycles. So it's very concerning to me that is a motor vehicle, and they're out there with doing their thing. Again, the main purpose is overall public safety and educating the youth, and not to be the no fun police, but it is a concern nationwide. You're seeing bad incidents happening, and we want to be able to educate along with the schools. I look forward to seeing this pass. I have a newsletter ready to go for our website and out to the school district before school closes, so probably out tomorrow and Friday. So I'm just looking forward to those items, and I'm open to answering any questions.
I saw that.
I do have a couple things to add now, prompted by Dan's comments. We are asking, we would be happy to have action on this tonight. It is a first read, but given the fact that the Senate bill was just passed and goes into effect tomorrow, we would like the council to consider taking action. And so with that, I would like to just clarify, in that Senate bill, what it effectively does is it modifies the RCW that is addressed in this proposed update, and it creates a new category, or it more specifically categorizes e-bikes by separating off those that are capable of going over 20 miles per hour. And so in anticipation of this, what we've done is we've made it so that the code will capture that category either under the traffic laws that pertain to motorcycles or under non-highway vehicles. And that'll be based on both the design of the vehicle itself and also the use. If it's designed and being used more like a dirt bike, it'll fall under non-highway vehicles. And if it's more like a motorcycle, it'll be regulated under the traffic laws that pertain to that. And now that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, we will start with Councilman Cock.
First of all, our legal expert, and Dan, I want to thank you for, this is an extremely difficult problem. You know, in my ward, where I get complaints are those wide paths along McGargyle and Fruitdale, where people just zip on those e-bikes down it, and you got to worry about pedestrians, you know, a family walking with a stroller, and I've heard about some near collisions on that. So thank you very much for your work on this, and I think it'll also make downtown safer. You know, it'll prevent people from going 30 miles an hour into a car in the downtown. So are e-bikes prohibited citywide on sidewalks, or they can ride on sidewalks?
So it depends on how they're categorized under that RCW. There's 3 classes, and it's broken down by speed and capability. So that RCW is what's going to apply citywide. And then in the central business district, there will be a blanket prohibition on sidewalks.
On sidewalks. So somebody could ride an e-bike through downtown on Ferry, right?
Just not on the sidewalks.
Okay, got it.
Okay,
That's it.
Councilman Loy.
I was going to ask the chief if he could explain the 3 different types of bikes and whether it's just speed or what's the deal with them?
Pop quiz.
Like I said, that's really confusing, but I believe there's class 1, 2, or 3. I have it written down here. But the first 2 are pedal assisted, go up to 20 miles per hour. The other one's pedal assisted and can go up to 20 miles an hour without pedaling, but kind of stops there. And then anything else above that is a class 3. So anything that goes up and over and basically can be powered up over 20 is a class 3.
So it's based on speed, basically.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman LaVaca.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I wrote in, I wasn't sure if it made sense to update our code prior to having the law already take shape, which seems like it was already, bless you, going to have full effect with the intended purpose. I think ours is a little bit more stringent with the helmets and stuff like that, which I would say, you know, it could be, I used to run with scissors and play around with my 2 brothers and be pretty wild, and, you know, we'd always get in trouble. But we also give away free helmets. I know that. I know the fire department's really awesome, goes to the skate park competition, is always offering these free safety devices. So it's not really a challenge where it's not available. And, you know, my wife, she hates seeing people zip around me. I don't really you know, it's whatever. But I did almost have somebody run right into my car, you know, just didn't even stop, and they just went across the road, and I thought, wow, man, that could have been pretty bad on their end, and then my insurance would have had to sue them for the car damage. So, yeah, I appreciate you writing this up, Dan, and it seems like if you guys feel like it's the best action for mitigating some of that risk, I don't know how you're gonna necessarily be out there with clock speeds and, or, you know, regulating that, or what police are gonna be actually stopping them, but.
Obviously, we can use all the state RCWs as far as rules of the road, and I think we're having a problem with that. Sidewalks is another thing, helmets is another thing, operating in a negligent manner. So there's all reasons for contacts, but a lot of those are gonna be to educate and see what class of e-bike they are driving. We're seeing some with helmets and a lot with not. So, I mean, at least some are doing it, but that's what we want for overall safety. And then, you know, if they are in violation, if the kids are under 16, there's not a whole lot we can do, but we can also get and hold the parent and, you know, get the e-bike to the parent first as discretion, and then as we continually go through the process, if we have the same thing happening over and over again, then we can impound it. Those are kind of why these procedures are in place, not to discourage use, but to overall safety of the operation of the bikes and education.
Yeah, I hope there is some teeth in it. I know that when I did a ride along, the officer pulled over somebody going way too fast in a residential neighborhood, and they kept going, so they didn't even stop. Finally stopped in front of their house, got out and ran inside, wanted to run inside. The officer stopped them, but they were 14 and they didn't have a license. They took their mom's car without asking, and the officer could do nothing about it, which I thought was weird. But so we just had to drive away. But yeah, hopefully there's.
Okay, Councilman DeYoung.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to thank Team Dan, Chief and Attorney, for answering the questions that I had. I also appreciated Councilmember LaVaca's points and fantastic education on this. But I really want to highlight when we talk about we are the representatives of the people. Phil, I see you out there, and you're the one that came up with public comment and brought this to our attention. So I want to say thank you for doing that, and that the people's voice does matter. And I really want to emphasize what Chief McElraith just talked about the progressive education and enforcement that this city does, and that our trained officers, they're professionals, that they don't start off with the impoundment of the bicycle, of the e-bike, but rather it's a discussion, it's an education. There's a piece in there about working with the school district, which I think is fantastic, and that you know, if I was 14 and the police impounded my e-bike and went to my parents and said, there's a problem here, there would be a conversation. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is get that conversation out there and that education. So with that, I would like to move ordinance number 2119-26, an ordinance of the City of Sedro-Woolley, Washington, amending Chapter 10.92, toy vehicles, and Chapter 10.96, on or off-road vehicles of the Sedro-Woolley Municipal Code.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion made by Councilman DeYoung, seconded by Councilwoman Peterson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you for all your work on that. Okay. Policy direction regarding senior center operations. Charlie?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Custy. Council, so we've got a policy question in front of us regarding how to move forward with the senior center. We had a meeting this morning, Mayor Custy and I did, with staff from the health department at the county. Got an update. One component of this is the Skagit County Senior Center coordinator for Sedro-Woolley is retiring in July. And there was a question as to how they would be replaced, and our hope was they would be replaced with another, full-time employee, for a long-term tenure, much as our current outstanding person has had. The county's going through a downsizing, as y'all are probably aware, where they are having to cut staff due to budget shortfalls. And they are reassigning somebody from the nutrition services area, so somebody with senior nutrition experience, but somebody will have to learn the programming side 4 days a week to replace our coordinator at our centers. So that is the county's plan. We didn't know that when we wrote this up. But the county also sent us a letter in the last day, which we included, or 2 days, which we included in the packet, which basically said, hey, we're not prepared right now to work on a funding agreement with you because our budget continues to get worse, and we need to wait, and we will get back to you at some point this fall. So the county, as a partner right now is kind of struggling. In our conversation with the staff, we felt a sense of relief that when we mentioned to them that there was the possibility the city might take this on if that's what we want to do. I think the county would love if the city were to take this on, but there's also a funding component to it. So what we've put in front of you is several options. The real question here, first and foremost, is starting January 1 next year. We do have a contract with the county that expires at the end of this year. So we do need to figure out what we want to do. Do we want to stay with the county? Do we want to consider providing senior services directly, which as this relationship with the county's evolved and we've seen their budget issues, is becoming more my recommendation. It is my recommendation at this point. It was not my recommendation to start. It was pretty far from this. And the third would be to consider other providers. There's currently nobody else really stepping up, but we've heard there may be nonprofit partners that emerge at some point, but nothing viable that I see between now and the end of the year. So it's really two choices: renew the contract with Skagit County or provide senior center services directly. We don't really know the quality of the person they're bringing in terms of their ability to do the work at this point. It'll take some time, to better understand how that's going and if we're getting the value for the investment we're making in the senior center. But we wanted to talk with you tonight just about where we go from here. If we were to take it on ourselves, two scenarios. One could be January 1 of 27. We would anticipate some kind of funding agreement with the county, but we don't have any clue. And it's going to be somewhere between the health department's going to get cut again, they fully expect, and it's going to be somewhere south of where they were talking. Whether they were talking is a full FTE, which essentially is what they fund now, so probably 120,000 or so was originally the potential available to us from the county. The total budget for the senior center is up 189,000. So we were actually going to come out a little bit ahead in the scenario, one of the scenarios they presented to us early this year. But I don't see that being the case going forward. I'll be happy if we see half of that amount, and we may see nothing. It's entirely possible, and nobody really knows. The county's going to have to put their budget together and figure that out. So if we were to kind of step into this and take it on, there is the possibility that we as a city need to be prepared to fund the full amount. The total senior center operations are $189,000 in 2026 dollars. Right now, the city's currently funding that at $75,000, so we have that in our budget, and we would need to come up with $113,000 on an annualized basis, and that'll go up a little bit, of course, in 27. Right now, it's about a 60-40 split. County pays 60%, city pays 40%. I included a spreadsheet in here that I had put together a while back just to kind of bring these numbers back to the surface, and really looking for direction from the council. There are a number of nuances here. So I mentioned January 1. If we were to do it, we need to be prepared, I think, in our budget at least to fully fund this, and then hopefully we'll get some good news in the budget process that we don't have to fund the whole thing. We could do it earlier, and that's a separate discussion. It's more complicated, but it would just kind of forward this all along if the council wanted to do that. In that case, we do have somebody stepping in who can at least hold down the fort after the retirement occurs for some period of time. It would take us some time to work with the county, and we don't know if the commissioners would be interested in this, but there's the possibility that we could go back to the county, amend our interlocal agreement with them, basically ask them to pay us to take on the service at this point, at least what they were going to spend on our senior center for the rest of this year, and then they're kind of out of it unless there's a future funding agreement. But in doing that, I would strongly recommend that we have them agree to fund us, because right now they're planning to spend money on this staff position for the rest of the year, and we would be giving that up if there's no funding coming back to help support our taking this on. So that's a more complicated scenario, and then we would have to bring somebody on and decide, go through that recruitment process and everything else. I think we could probably do that by September or October if that was our intention here in the next, let's say, few weeks, to start going down that road. So there are two options really within the city does it ourselves purview that I can see, and those are the two. Start at January 1 or start something sooner. But in both cases, we need to be prepared for the financial impact of that. So I wanted to present that all to council. There's more background here, but just to kind of frame that up for you so we can have a discussion, hopefully get some feedback from you on what your thoughts are, what more information you might need, or anything else.
Council Henderson, I saw your light on first.
Yep. Thank you, Charlie, and I appreciate all of your ongoing efforts to this particular challenge that we're facing. I cannot really put into words how disappointing this whole thing has been from last summer until now. I feel like time is not our friend and it's not on our side. And inaction and moving target from the county has just absolutely exacerbated this problem. I think we owe it to our constituency to basically to act now. I want to move forward on this as quickly as possible. I want to, and I know I had a conversation with you to where you guys already were anticipating making an addition to our salary schedule. And in order to do that, we would need to incorporate a budget amendment to get that moving forward quickly. But I recommend that we take this over, and we take it over now, and we continue to work with the county on the funding that they're going to fund until the end of the year. And we just take that and we put it towards, and we recruit for this employee to run this program. I appreciate that they do have somebody that's going to come in and kind of run it with the retirement. I don't blame her for retiring right now. Right now is the perfect time to retire. But I think that we need to do this quite quickly, and I know that you're ready to go on this. So that would be what I would recommend that we do.
Okay, I saw Councilman Cock.
Yeah, just so I'm clear on this, the nonprofit is going to be handling Meals on Wheels and the congregate dining program. So the city would be paying, we already own and pay for upkeep of the building, right? So what, if we bring on, this would be an FTE? This would be an FTE who would run the operations of the center, which I think is needed. And so would that be the main, because you said something about 113K operations.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in addition to the salary? So it would be 120 or whatever plus 113 or like 230 or something?
No, that's a good question. Most of what the county puts into this is that person's salary and benefits. That is about 113,000. I think there's a small telephone charge included in their budget as well, which is sort of an anomaly. Operations-wise, it's all donations and in-kind services.
Right. Yeah,
what we would need to focus on is that $113,000 number on an annualized basis. That's essentially the gap between what we fund and the total.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Councilman Henderson to move ahead with this. And if we can get anything from the county with their financial situation so dicey, I've talked to plenty of seniors there, and they don't like the lack of clarity and the fact that it's up in the air. I think if the city made an assertive statement that we're moving forward with this, we're going to hire somebody. We hope the county helps us, but we're going to move forward irregardless. I think that's a strong statement that would ratchet down some of the anxiety. That would be agree with you.
Councilman LaVaca?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, obviously, I feel the same way as Councilman Cock and Councilman Henderson about it. I am very disappointed that it was on the docket for, taking out of the budget for this county, which I've mentioned many a times. And I'm surprised that with this current, that they're still evaluating how they can work that out of their budget when there's been back and forth commitments. It's been really difficult to understand. So we definitely need to get that figured out. I would be in favor of bringing somebody in sooner than later, and that's it for the effort to get that onboarding and make sure they're up to queue. I think the salary, I'm not entirely sure what their job task is over at just organizing the community or the senior center and facilitating tasks and activities and lunches and meals and, seems like a pretty high salary for that, but it is what it is. We want to make sure we get somebody that's really good, that they like, that they do enjoy if we're getting that position. They have a say in that, right? Or would that just be the city making that call? The Public Works would be the interviewing process and finding that. But Bill, would you have the senior center, like at least the board come and meet the person that's getting hired for that position and stuff, I would imagine?
As far as, I really am not familiar with the senior center board or anything like that.
Yeah, there's an advisory board at the senior
Right,
center.
and,
So
like
would
I
we include them in the hiring process? I think, we would find ways to do that.
I would assume so,
yes.
but yeah, personally, I'm not familiar with the board, but it seems to make administrative sense that they would do that.
Okay.
There'd be at least a few members of the board as part of that interview committee and that type of stuff, as opposed to all of them. But
That's great.
But
Yeah,
I
I just don't want to see like a pretty large expenditure. We end up just filling a gap and then them being, very disgruntled at us afterwards. So having that inclusivity and being able to be included, that would be awesome. And I'm glad we're able to do this. I hope other communities can manage as well.
Councilman DeYoung?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I have a inquiry and then a Socratic question, Charlie. The first one is, were we able to confirm the statement that at the current situation at our senior center, they are not taking on new Meals on Wheels clients?
I've not had a chance to run that down.
Okay. That to me is of a critical concern. And then the Socratic question is, can you elaborate on the experience, the operational experience of the nonprofit that has been picked to operate the congregate meals in the senior center starting July 1st through the end of the year?
Yeah, I have not analyzed their organization, but I understand that they were doing fundraising, Scholarship Council on Aging in the past, and that is their area of expertise, that there's a board. I don't think they had any staff until recently. They added, I believe, an executive assistant. They did pass a bunch of personnel policies, and they have now started to take on the staff for the meal program. They were the one of two agencies that showed some interest, but really the primary agency that stepped up countywide to take this on. It's not completely out of the norm, though. I know in Whatcom County, the Whatcom Council on Aging provides the congregate meals and Meals on Wheels, as well as they're doing it under contract, I believe, for San Juan County, I think it is as well. So that is a model that's been proven, but whether this particular organization will succeed or not, I can't really speak to that.
Right, that's the crystal ball. But it is fair to say this is their first operational go.
This is, at least in recent times, their first operational go, from what I can tell.
So, thank you. So I see this as a service continuity issue. And the public and we need to know what continues, who's responsible, what it costs, and what decisions are needed right now. Who's going to be responsible for staffing, scheduling, building access, insurance, and program rules under the recommended options? How will seniors, families, volunteers, and user groups be notified of changes? Yeah, I came into this meeting thinking I could support a bridge plan that protects continuity. And I'd just like us to be clear that this does not mean ending policy discussions. And I'm not getting that sense that we're terminating any policy discussions. And I think before this next budget cycle, I'd really like to understand with some serious numbers, concrete numbers of the costs, the staffing responsibilities, and the service level. And I just want to avoid two big mistakes. And those are, and Councilmember Lavaca brushed on them, one is letting a service gap service gap happen because we waited too long. And then two, making long-term commitment before we understand the cost and responsibility. So that, I understand you're not looking for a motion tonight, but you're looking for us to talk about what policies we'd like to go moving forward. But I am also getting the sense now of we want to move sooner than later in order to establish continuity, make sure that there isn't a gap, and that there's confidence that folks will be taken care of at the senior center. So if I misunderstand any of that, please let me know now.
No, I think you've got it fairly accurately. This is a complicated issue, though. So moving ahead now requires a whole bunch of different actions. One of those is to terminate the interlocal agreement. That's going to require council action. And whether we terminate or whether we amend with money coming our way is something that we have to work out with the county before we can really even present that to council. Then there's the budget amendment side of it, making sure we have a position in the budget. There's the financial side of it. Then there's the hiring side of it. So all these things take some time. None of that's going to happen quickly. I'm confident the meals part of this, at least in the short run, like July 1, is going to continue from everything that I've been informed about. And that the senior center will stay on, and certainly the county is under contract to continue to operate that until we kind of get everything straight on our end. I didn't have a chance to pull the ILA with the county here, but my recollection is it's at least a 30-day termination as well. So even if we gave notice, we still are waiting another month. But there's a lot of work to be done between here and there if that's our intention, which it sounds like that council would like me to work in that direction.
Councilwoman Peterson?
So I didn't have time to pull our current agreement. Do we know what the dollar amount is associated with that from the county?
Yeah, roughly the count, so on an annualized, I don't have it broken down, but you can do quick math here. On an annualized basis, it's $189,000. That's like the total amount spent on the senior center. The county's share of that is $113,000. The city's share is $75,000. The county actually expends a little more than that, but we've paid them $11,000 per year. Now for the second, that included meals. That was the original budget for 2026. But at this point, we're only paying them half of what we would have paid them for the second half of the year. So that was the amendment that council approved a few weeks ago, and that was something 2,000 something. It's my recollection. It did not include the meals portion at all because the county's getting out of that business for the second half of the year.
And it doesn't include any details on what the county's dollar contribution is?
I have that here. The county's dollar contribution on an annualized basis is $113,000. So for half of the year, and we're under half of the year now, it's half of that. So it's going to be 55, something to that effect.
So our current agreement is that the county will provide staffing at $55K for the remainder of the year, like roughly.
Roughly.
I would like to see if we can work with the county. I remember early on in these discussions, we were looking at the different models used by the different cities, and the city of Anacortes was just receiving direct payments from the county and then hiring their own staff for the staffing portion. And I think that seems like a good interim solution because I do think we want to ensure that stability in the senior services, and the best way to do that at this stage is to have the city hire the staff, right? But I'd hate to leave that money on the table. And in the remainder of the year, I'd like to see us figure out how many of the people who we're serving in the senior center are Sedro-Woolley residents and how many are residents from other parts of the county. Just so, because I think, not that we want to like pull the rug out from underneath anyone or anything like that, but I think it's a good argument as we go into those negotiations for 2027 with the county to be like, hey, you know, we're not just serving Sedro-Woolley residents here, we're serving residents from the county, and these are your constituents. And because I think the county does have a responsibility to provide those, make sure those services are available to their constituents, you know? I mean, it's a terrible situation that we're in, but making sure that we've done our part to give them the data that they need to make well-informed decisions about how to get senior services out is, I think, a priority.
Councilman Cox, sorry.
Yes, just a follow-up. So if we did just suddenly do it on our own and work out an agreement, the 30-day agreement with the county, does that take the 55 grand off the table, or do you think they'd still be willing to talk about it?
Well, we mentioned that today. Our intention would be to try to amend the contract to receive the money they have in their budget for the rest of the year. And so that would be the initial approach, would be to go and talk with them about that. If we just terminated the agreement just straight away, and I'm the county, they're under really no obligation to even talk with us at that point. So
Yeah, that's the smarter approach. And,
yeah.
and with the understanding going forward in budget planning is we're not going to get anything more from the county. That's gone, right?
We're going into the 2027 budget with that assumption, but we don't know if that's the case. I think if the county were here, they would say that they still have an intention to provide funding, but based on their trend line, we're just not planning to count on it.
Yeah, that's mini-max strategy, go with mini. Right, thank you.
Councilman Henderson?
Thank you. We've gone round and round with this for months now, and everything that we fear is going to happen seems to be happening over and over and over again. Seems to me it's just wild that we haven't been afforded the opportunity to take action yet because we keep getting these promises that keep repeatedly not coming to fruition. So, I have a sample written out of what I would like to do, and I'd like to hear opinions on it if you would entertain that. A sample motion would be to amend the interlocal with the county for the remaining funds that are slated for 2026, and then have staff immediately draft and add to the salary schedule and incorporate a budget amendment for the remainder of 2026 for our June 18th meeting? Is that correct? It's June 18th, right? June 24th. Okay. So that way, we have all of our ducks in a row. And then with that amendment, we could look at that 30-day cutoff, right? So that could potentially give us until the end of July to advertise for, recruit for, and hire a coordinator for our senior center. And then moving on any forward from that, that's kind of why we had that goal-setting conversation earlier, because we need to know what our priorities are moving into the 27-28 budget. And this is one of the reasons, looking further into the meeting, that I was very cautious to add the Parks and Rec coordinator right now, because that is something that I really want, but that's something I know we can't afford right now, or shouldn't afford right now when we're talking about something as serious as this is to everyone that I've heard speak about it up here. So that's just a sample of what I'd like to do to take a little bit of action tonight, because the inaction here over the past year is just killing me.
I see that Councilman DeYoung has something.
That's a very well-written motion that I will second, so we can continue on with the motion discussion.
All right, so,
Would you like me to formally read it then?
please.
Okay. I would motion to amend the interlocal agreement with the county to acquire the remaining funds slated for 2026. In addition to tasking staff to add to the salary schedule a coordinator position for the senior center and incorporate a budget amendment for the remainder of 2026 for our, can we hit our next council meeting on that? If that's the only budget amendment?
It's a question for Kelly. We actually have a budget amendment we're working on, so I think we already have a fair amount of that put together.
Yes, and I mean, we'd likely, normally we do 2 reads, so just given that context as well.
Okay.
We'll make it something we'll vote for, okay?
Okay. And so Councilman Henderson made that motion. It was seconded by Councilman DeYoung. Is there any more discussion?
I would just like to add, Madam Mayor, that this really shows that this council is going to put the money where their mouth is. And we said this was really important when this first came to our attention a little bit ago, a couple of months ago. And a lot of people were afraid, and the him and the hawed has been waiting on them, the county, to make some action. And so this is something where we are really stricklers about spending money up here. And this is the easiest money I think we've ever spent. And so we don't like full-time positions added in. I think everybody knows that with the HR position. But this is a really, really important position to have, and I really appreciate the council taking the action to do this.
Thank you. And then Councilman Cock.
I just think this is, shows the council's commitment to senior citizens in our community, many of whom are struggling. As I went door to door, I ran into quite a few who were struggling. And I know a lot of them depend on the congregate meals and for comradeship, the activities and getting together with their seniors and younger people. I just think it's important for us to make a statement, and I think by taking this action, we're making a statement that the senior center in Sedro-Woolley is going to stay and be supported. Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And I have to say, I am incredibly proud of all of you guys. When this first came to us, we said we are not going to let the city of Sedro-Woolley and our constituents worry anymore. And the way that the county was dropping the ball, we were not going to stand for that. And I am so incredibly proud of all of you. And Charlie and our staff for all the hard work that they've done to get us to this point so that we could serve our community. So congratulations, you guys. I'm very proud. All right. Okay, moving forward, ordinance 212126, repealing chapter 2.50 Parking Commission of the Municipal Code, first read. Do you want me to speak a little bit about this, or you want to go first?
I think Dan's prepared to speak to
go ahead,
it,
Dan.
but you can go ahead if you want.
It's all right. Dan, you take it.
Yeah, this is a simple repeal of the entire chapter regarding the parking commission. Mayor and staff discussed this when we talked about the action item regarding the Arts Commission. So although this is a first read, it is something we've talked about in the past. The proposed repeal reflects the City Council's determination that Parking Commission functions can be carried out more effectively through existing departments and direct council oversight. And it is a simple repeal, and we have another one on the agenda following this. And I will pass it to the mayor or more context.
Okay, so just for a little history lesson, the parking commission that this is referring to dated back to when the downtown business owners were looking for more parking. And so they wanted to purchase the parking lot behind the, Woolly Market or Bigfoot, okay? And once they did that, it just stayed here. And it really has no relevance to anything that we're doing now. It's just housekeeping to clean it up. So that's the story behind this. And as we're going through our codes and making things streamlined and easier, this is just one of those things that just needed to be cleaned up as well. So it is our first read. No action is requested, but if you are so inclined or you have questions.
So is there anybody still on either of these boards, or are they all vacant?
No, there is no one for the parking commission. Councilman DeYoung?
I move ordinance number 2121-26, an ordinance of the City of Sedro-Woolley, Washington, repealing Chapter 2.5 Parking Commission in the Sedro-Woolley Municipal Code.
I'll second that motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I have a motion made by Councilman DeYoung, seconded by Councilman LaVaca. Is there any more conversation? Oh, okay, Councilman Henderson?
Sorry, I stepped out for a minute. I think we brought this up at the other meeting about the parking commission. And one of the things that I saw in this was that this is something that the planning commission can certainly and should handle. And historically, I think the parking commission was put together to purchase some of the parking areas in town so that they'd be public, and then once all of those were acquired, if I'm not mistaken, there's a couple of different public parking lots that we have in town that were purchased by the city, and then there was no longer a need for that parking commission. Is that true? To a certain extent?
That's the history that I've been told.
Yeah,
It is.
We didn't know we had a parking commission. I did not until this was brought up. So
Okay,
yeah,
so-
this is, it's been a long time since it's been active.
So any further action with parking code and stuff like that, that would be something you would handle with the?
That's
Glover?
correct, yeah.
Okay,
And in fact, I think it was last year when we did do an overhaul of the parking ordinance, so.
it was.
Parking issues like that we would bring up. And if it was about purchasing land, we'd work with Public Works on that, but that's not in the future that we are aware of.
Okay, just for public clarity, I just wanted to make
Yep.
that comment.
And just because it's history, Councilman Cox, do you want to say anything on it?
If anyone really wants to know, go visit Bobby at Cascade
Yes.
Fabrics, because it was her husband was spearheading it, and local business owners purchased the land, and it was donated, to my understanding.
Yes. Yep. Okay. what, you
I
have
was
something else?
actually going to say that same thing and talking with Bobby, and we should probably see if we can, it's not, is it still public land? From my understanding, it ended up over there as part of the Bigfoot Den, or not Bigfoot Den, but that property, or is it still public? You know, it would be nice if there was a way to memorialize her
Oh, that
efforts
would
and
be-
their efforts, because they did, at the time in the 50s, realize there was a need, and they came together as a community, and that would just kind of continue what we're doing today in this community of coming together to make things happen on their own, so, yeah. You know, yeah, I think the only reason why they needed that commission was to make that happen.
Yes.
And then, yeah, that was.
All right, we had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And let's go to the next ordinance. Dan?
Yeah, again, this is another simple repeal of the entire chapter. This one is the Park and Recreation Advisory Board. Again, this is a first read, but it was discussed on the staff report under the repeal of the Arts Commission previously. And this would repeal Chapter 2.42 for a similar reason as the previous determination that the advisory functions can be carried out more effectively through existing departments, direct council oversight, or maybe ad hoc advisory boards on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, is there any discussion? Councilman Lavaca?
I just noting that it's unfortunate that this never really took off, or it was, but in my tenure, there's never been any real movement on it. This would be a great way to bring the parks together, create the flyers, advertise that stuff. It just never, there was nothing ever for it. So it is past time to clean it up for sure. And I would love to see that off the website, where there's just an empty page. It's been there for forever. So I think that's the only reason why it has to stay on the website, right? And I've been trying to get that off for a long time. So yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, would you?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to repeal the Chapter 2.50 Park and Rec Advisory Board of Ordinance 2120 TAC 26.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilman Lavaca, seconded by Councilman Henderson. Any more discussion?
Yeah, just a curiosity. Last summer I was hiking out, or not really hiking, stumbling along with my cane, and I came across on one of the islands my dear and departed friend Ralph Monroe, the longtime Secretary of State. There was this beautiful bench dedicated to Ralph and his wife, and they'd spent, I guess they had provided funds to state parks, and I somehow got on the list of the, the Deception Pass fundraising group. So if somebody wanted to do that, because now there's nice park benches up in Northern State, how do they do that? I'm not talking about in support of this defunct thing. I'm just curious how, if somebody wanted to, do a bench on one of our parks, or maybe even rename one of our parks. Oh, you, Kevin, might know.
Most of it goes through the county parks department.
Oh.
And a couple of years ago, you could go with $500 and pick your spot.
Oh.
So, but now they got a new director, so it'll be a little bit different, but the parks department can tell you.
Okay, it's good to know.
Madam Mayor, the Lions Club did something recently just like that, collect a bunch of plastic from various businesses and whatnot, and they ended up making planks for park benches, and we see that along the Cascade Trail. So, it's a couple of different agencies that allow that to happen.
All right.
Madam Mayor, I just want to put in some more historical context to the benches, which is we shouldn't forget Job Corps and their decades of projects those students put into creating benches, not only for our central business district, but also for trails, and a legacy that they did with those folks that were learning a trade right here in Sedro-Woolley. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Oh, wait, one more. Councilwoman Peterson.
I think it's hard for you to see my light
It
this
is.
far away.
Sorry.
I'm disappointed to see this on the agenda for termination. Parks are an important part of our strategic plan, and in my view, having a citizen-led advisory board to provide input on those government decisions is really in line with our priority to continue accountable, transparent, and accessible leadership. I'd like to see, instead of this terminated, I'd like to see an effort made to recruit members and move the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board forward in a good way.
All right. We have a motion and it's seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Opposed.
Okay. A motion passes 5-2. And I will also add that it was not I who took away the liaison and then had nothing going for this. So this is cleaning up. So, all right, moving forward. Number 5. Bill.
Okay. So, good evening, council. Thank you, Mayor. This is our first read for the adoption of our 6-year transportation improvement program. I gave council before the meeting a big 11x17 copy of this, just because it's certainly easier for me to read on that as well. So I'm going to go over just a I guess, a couple housekeeping things just to introduce some of this stuff. So with your packet, you also have a very tiny map. I actually had 11 by 17 copies of that as well that I'll hand out on the second read for the adoption of the 6-year tip. But the project number on your tip, the numbering system we use has a SW for Sedro-Woolley, and then the first two-digit numbers is the year the project was conceived. So when I went through last year creating this tip, I went back on our records, and the earliest records we had for a 6-year tip was 2004. So several of the older projects on this tip are from 2004, but then that just kind of gives you context of when we conceived of these things. And then the dash and those numbers are simply sequential from conceiving of things in a given year. And then the map references that project number to the project, just for brevity of things. So, and so that kind of gives you the context of where this is. So what you have so based on really input throughout last year and what the interests were for some of our priorities, right now we have the first 5 projects are our citywide projects, where we're handling things like our pavement program is project number 1 typically. But then we have a variety of citywide projects for minor construction, safety improvements, filling sidewalk gaps as part of the sidewalk multimodal rehab program. We'll likely, and right now it's on our schedule, to close a gap on Bennett Street to Township with our own crews. So we're going to do that one in-house. So things like that are what these are trying to describe, but they are citywide projects. And then we start in with our projects slated for construction next year. And one of those, so really the 3 priorities that got shifted based on kind of the annual input from council is we have Metcalf Street sidewalk improvements, which will go from Warner to Nelson. Right now we really kind of have a pedestrian piece where we have events at the high school. People park in town and just walk in the street because there is no sidewalks. The other piece with that is that, and maybe I can describe this as a good or the order thing in the near future, but Transportation Improvement Board is one of the prime funding sources for our street projects and multimodal projects in town. This year, they're getting some different climate action money and some different complete streets money, which is a kind of what I call the new color of money. And these funding sources from TIB is typically 3% of the gas tax and some other small sources. And so typically you can only use their money on collector streets and arterials. And now with this complete streets money, we can also use that money eligible for local access, so things like Talcott. But it is really strictly for multimodal is what they prefer. So Metcalf Street, South of State Street, it changes from a collector to a local access. So this will be one of the first funding opportunities we apply for at the end of July. And I think it probably has a really good chance of being one of their complete street projects for local access projects they fund. So that's where it's at. We've designed this in-house. So Kyle Anderson's the staff that was assigned to that. We already have, we're past 60% design on this project. So we will have a project designed by the end of the year. And with getting that funding source, which we find at the beginning of November, whether we met the line, we intend to fund this next summer as a sidewalk project. The other 2 projects that were significant, and these also are identified on a comprehensive plan as 2 of the intersections that will not be meeting our level of service standard, are SR20 and Reed Street signalization, and then also the Trail and Cook Road intersection improvements, which in this particular vision involves a signal that also ties in. So Trail Road, as everybody knows, is a separated intersection. So we have the southbound leg of Trail Road intersects Cook Road about 400-foot offset from the northbound leg of Trail Road. And that's where the school bus barn unload. So we'll be adding some sophistication to that signal to allow them red time or green time, if you will, so they can get all their school buses out twice a day efficiently and not have to deal with some of the traffic risks they deal with now with an unsignalized intersection. So one of these projects, so SR 20 and Reed Street will be a federal project, and the Cook Road Trail Road project will be a TIB project with our funding plan. But that funding cycles for those projects won't come up to 2027, so that's why they're scheduled like they are.
Bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Cock has a quick question, probably
Yes, sir.
pertaining right
That's
to
fine.
what you're...
Quick question, B. I've worried every time I drive around, every time I drive along Cook Road near Trail, is people getting across Cook. I mean, it's you know, with more subdivisions and houses and things going in, and then you got that gas station, that service station. So where would this be?
So the main signal, the three-way signal, okay, will be at the gas station. And so part of that is to give those pedestrians a very positive, protected crossing area. Okay, and at that, where the gas station is, actually is about the center between the Janicki Fields dedicated crossing and the roundabout, which is where the other crosswalk is. So it's a good sequence for pedestrian access. But yes, that's very correct. That's been part of that input I was talking about, right? And the signal is the solution.
I saw a bunch of kids with baseball mitts and on their bikes waiting at Trail Road to get across.
Right. And this also with Trail Road, because so the north side of Trail Road will basically be unsignalized, but with a signal at the southerly leg of Trail Road where the gas station is, it will provide enough platooning to provide gaps for people to take a left turn and get out. And so they'll actually have more gap opportunities with this and more specific gap opportunities than a roundabout would provide. So there's a strategy and method to the madness for recommending that. But that's why we've moved it forward from near the bottom of the tip to really the next projects on deck. Okay, so I mean, that's a real brief presentation. One of the pieces, you also have a 6-year tip project list that just lists the projects out. The projects that are underlined on the top are the projects for the first 3 years of this tip, and those will be the specific projects. I'll be walking through each project with a picture and a map and a bulleted list on what their merits are. And so that underlined list is the main projects I'll be talking about in 2 weeks when we bring it before the public for the public hearing. And I haven't made that presentation today because if there's anybody in the public hearing that wants to talk about it, I want them to see that presentation of each project. Is there any other questions I can answer?
I see that Councilman Henderson has one.
Really, really quick. So this will be updated quarterly in Invisio, or?
Well, the way this will get updated in Invisio is active projects that basically the first 2 years worth will be updated monthly or quarterly, and updating things monthly with their transportation planning and system sometimes doesn't happen real fast. So, but that's the intent, is that the active projects will be updated actively in Invisio, and the rest of those projects, we may update them as far as maybe a grant opportunity we're applying for, that type of thing. But the rest of them are what I call illustrative projects because they're really in the planning pool, not an active project at this time.
Okay, great, because I just like being able to direct inquiries from the public to, you know, either send them the link for Invisio and which, and then they're like, oh, wow, okay, you know, and especially with public works projects, everybody wants to know what's going on because there's machinery out on the roadways and stuff like
Yes,
that.
sir.
So
They call me often.
I know, and I'm trying to keep them from calling you and just being able to see the computer, you know, because you're a busy guy. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I had a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking at the map and trying to figure out where SW 0405 and SW 0402 are. These are the Cascade
Oh,
Trail things. That's that big long line, kind of the tail of Sedro-Woolley there, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Oh, and I guess the other thing to realize, because a lot of these projects on the 6-year tip are contiguous, so different streets are in different phases. So especially the Jones-John Liner arterial project is really one big blue line with a whole bunch of squares underneath it. When I came on board, before me, Mark Freiberger was envisioning the Jones-John Liner Trail Road Corridor project as a single project, tried a few times to get a raised grant, $34 million or whatever, to do it all at once. When I came on board, that raised grants became kind of more unlikely for a jurisdiction our size. So what I did is I came through and phased everything so that we could accomplish it over time. But at the same time, if there was an opportunity for a raised grant, we could still put it all together in the same quarter and apply for an appropriate funded project. But at the same time, I wanted to create a reasonable phasing process that we could accomplish over time as a city. And of course, right now, the active project is the Jones-John Liner Railroad Undercrossing Project. Wow, I did that at the same time. And that currently is at about an 80% design, getting ready to forward to BNSF. We had the bridge, BNSF bridge was constructed on April 14th of this year. So now I have a hole under it that I can put a road. And so we are on track, permitting, BNSF coordination, and all the other hurdles we're doing to get through it for construction April of 2028. And then that allows all this other sequencing to fall into place at the appropriate time.
Any more questions for council? No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
So that's all I have. This is no action today, but the second meeting in June, we certainly will be asking you to adopt the tip. And if there is any thoughts or anything you'd like me to take a look at, by all means, give me a call anytime, and I will either answer your questions or figure out a way to incorporate it and present that on the second read. Okay.
Okay. Councilman Henderson?
I'm sorry. Now, forgive my ignorance, but I remember not too long ago, we did the 6-year TIB. So I guess my question is how often do we periodically update?
So the 6-year tip by statute is required to be updated annually at a minimum before July 1st of every year. Now, and that's a very good question because, okay, let me step back. So there's our TIP, which every city and jurisdiction and county has a TIP, which is our Capital Transportation Improvement Program, okay? There's also, SCOG has a regional TIP where everybody in Skagit County, or if you're in PRT Peninsula Regional Transportation, it's a 4-county transportation. So each SCOG and RTPO also has a regional TIP. So everybody's individual TIPs, the federal projects on those TIPs get uploaded into the regional TIP, and then everybody's regional TIPs, I think there's 30 of them throughout Washington State, then get uploaded into the State Transportation Improvement Program. So when you see the acronym STIP, that doesn't stand for 6-year, it stands for State Transportation Improvement Program. Our TIP is Regional Transportation Improvement Program. So that's how all these connect, okay? And so we forward all of our federal projects through our coordination with SCOG into the regional TIP, and it goes, and then, because federal funding really comes to the state of Washington, not to the counties. Our state has a very innovative process of feeding out to all the local jurisdictions, and that's one reason why we're a receiver state. We receive more than our fair share typically year to year in Washington. And so with that, every TIP can be amended 12 times a year. So every month we have an opportunity, if we need to amend a TIP, and we can do that for several reasons. One, we may have our priorities change because a new funding source came out, and we happen to be positioned. This TIP really does position us for those types of things. We may need to move a project up so that we can go after a certain amount of funding. We can amend the tip because we have a new need that we didn't anticipate before. Various reasons, but we have an opportunity to actually amend this every month, and then when we amend it, we then go RTPO and the state STIP. They amend their tips every month because they have multiple jurisdictions, and they will, and that's how they address an individual jurisdiction's needs. So, and it's not uncommon to for a local at our level to amend a tip once or twice a year if necessary, and then these other higher level TIPs we fit into, they're amending every month. So they all take the advantage of that particular piece of the statute that lets us to basically amend a tip at any time that we need to.
That makes perfect sense. And, you know, again,
Well, that's
my,
fine.
my ignorance, I guess, because we just did the 6-year traffic improvement plan. And so I was like, why are we doing this
Yeah.
again? It hasn't been 6 years, so that's a,
Right. Yes, the state statute
Okay.
required to amend it annually.
that's good information. I love streets projects too, by the way, so
Thank
I was excited to see it again.
All right, if there isn't anything for the good of the order. I know. I'll get to that next.
Move to adjourn?
Well, we have to do our executive session.
Oh, okay, all right. Sorry, that just fell out of my mouth.
You're excited. We'll get to the
Eager.
executive session to discuss with legal counsel about current or potential litigation, RCW 42.30.1101I. And Dan, how much time do you think that we'll need?
15 minutes?
Oh, sure, we had to do 8:31, so it'll be 8:46. We'll be back.
I'm guessing this not involve me this time? Hey, Charlie, you gotta see this though.
You know what?
This is what I was trying to get, Elvis.
Charlie, weren't you going to talk about flaw?
I think you're right. I think that's what it is. Dan, you want to come in?
Oh, is that what it is?
I think so.
Okay, we need 5 more minutes, so we'll be back in 8:50. All right, we were back at 8:50. No decisions were made, and I'll wait for the others, and we'll be looking for a motion to adjourn, which I'm sure I can know. who's gonna
I'll make
do
the
it.
motion.
Oh, all those in favor, motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilwoman Peterson, seconded by Councilman Cox. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Good night, everybody. We're adjourned.